gentleman from Nevada, Mr. Horsford, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. I want to thank the chairman and the ranking member for holding this necessary hearing today, and I want to thank our expert witnesses for appearing before the committee. I'm glad that you're here to elaborate on the various ways that the Chinese Communist Party is challenging the United States' interest on a global scale, whether it be through unfair trade practices and ignoring of international sanctions, undermining of the SWIFT banking system, expansion of influence through the Belt and Road Initiative, or simply military aggression. We are seeing a multifaceted campaign from Beijing to catapult China to the forefront of global markets and the world stage. We have a responsibility to our children and to the next generation to own the 21st century as the United States. No longer do we have the luxury of waiting for tomorrow, as we are locked in a competition for America's global standing today. So the work that we do here and have done over the last 2 years will be key to positioning our country for the economic fight to come. I'm proud to say that House Democrats have delivered and laid the groundwork for American success through strategic investment in our people, our production, and our infrastructure. The CHIPS and Science Act ensures that the technology of the future will be made right here in America by union members with good quality jobs. And as the high-tech manufacturing sector evolves, our production capabilities will grow right along with it. However, other investments were necessary to rebuild our crumbling roads and bridges through the bipartisan infrastructure law, which will allow American businesses to bring their goods to the market faster and at a lower rate. Meanwhile, the Inflation Reduction Act delivered support to the nearly 60,000 manufacturing employees back in my home state of Nevada, while ensuring that the United States will lead the way forward on clean energy. Now, these are just some of the examples, and I know my colleagues on the other side will propose additional ones, and I hope to work with many of you on those efforts. But I believe that we should be focused on also supporting and investing in American companies and the American workforce. For decades, investments, manufacturing, and our supply chains had to be offshored to China by multinational corporations that saw opportunities for ever greater returns. I am particularly worried by the large investments from the Thrift Savings Plan and other retirement accounts into companies controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. Nevadans don't need to have their retirement accounts investing their hard-earned money into companies and funds that are actively competing against us. While I applaud President Biden for his recent executive order barring investments in certain military or surveillance companies, it remains that U.S. investors hold over $1.2 trillion in equity and debt issued by Chinese entities. These investments should be made here at home to the benefit of American companies, communities, and workers. To make matters worse, while the companies American firms have invested in may appear privately held, oftentimes they are still working at the behest of the Chinese Communist Party. Mr. Harrell, given all that we know about the difficulty to disentangle Chinese state-owned enterprise from private firms, do you think it is appropriate for the administration and Congress to consider further restrictions on American investment in Chinese firms? Are we essentially shifting money away from our domestic sectors to the benefit of our competitors?
So I do think it is appropriate for Congress and for the Biden administration to look at ways to expand limits on certain U.S. investments in China. I'd recommend in particular that the administration and Congress work to build out the list of Chinese military and surveillance companies where investment is currently prohibited, to potentially include other kinds of companies where we see specific national security risks from the investment in those companies. And I also join several of my colleagues here in endorsing a narrowly targeted review mechanism for certain outbound private investments in China. I do think it's important to look at both these issues.
Thank you very much, Madam Mr. Chairman, Madam Ranking Member, I will yield back.
Gentleman yields back.